Hello everyone, it's Jamie and welcome back to my channel and welcome to another update video. It is another week of spinning the wheel. It's actually Tuesday though instead of Monday, which I'll go into it very quickly. So I did not stitch a lot this weekend. I did not stitch at all Friday. I did not stitch at all Saturday. Sunday I did a tiny bit of stitching, and so then I did not film yesterday because I was just like, I am just going to spend the day trying to do some stitching because I was supposed to work on 3 projects over the weekend and I only had worked on 1 over the weekend. So I was like, I'm going to take the day, do more stitching, and then I'll film Tuesday, which is today. So what happened is on Friday my kids wanted to go skating, and I haven't skated in like 20 years. They have went skating more recently than that because like we've taken them skating before, but I never skated with them. I would always just sit and I would watch, I would sit safely, very safe. And I decided this time that I would go skating with them, and it was going fine until at the very end. It was right before they started to play the very last song of the night, and I was skating with one of my kids. They were getting to a point where they were more like confident, so they started skating like faster and stuff like that and like being more risky, and I kept being like, whoa, we should not do that. Anyways, they fell and then I ended up falling with them, and when I fell I went backwards onto my wrists and I ended up hurting both of my wrists. So Friday and Saturday I was not stitching because I was just like keeping my wrists in like one position. And you can't really tell as much now, but like this one has a bruise, and then I also bruised up my arm somehow. I didn't even fall, I don't think, on my arm. I don't remember falling on my arm, but I somehow bruised, a lot. So I wasn't stitching Friday or Saturday, and then Sunday I did a little bit, but I still wasn't wanting to like go crazy because obviously stitching you're having to move like your wrist and arm, so I wasn't wanting to do anything too crazy and possibly like aggravate anything more. So on Sunday when I did get back to stitching, I worked on Autumn Harmony because I was like, I hadn't stitched on her in like 3 days because I didn't stitch on her Thursday of last week either. So I was like, I'm gonna get behind. So I pulled her out, and then I also decided to change where I was stitching. Real quickly, I will mention, I don't think I mentioned it yet, this is by Maxine Gadd. I'm stitching it on 18 count 2/1 full cross. And when I started off the month, I was stitching it in this top corner here, and I was trying to fill in the section. And I had talked about in my last video about wanting to go back to doing cross country by color, and so I decided on Sunday when I pulled it out that I was going to start stitching on DMC 154 and just focus on that color, because that usually is quicker to get stitches in faster than when I'm stitching up here, because when I was filling in the section it takes a lot longer because you're pulling out a color, possibly doing like 5 stitches, then you're having to get out another color, whereas cross country goes pretty quickly because you're just taking your one color and then just zipping through the section, and you can go pretty quick. So that was what I did on Sunday, and then I also worked on her Monday. So she has gotten 400 stitches, so hopefully she's not falling too far behind. I was technically ahead on my stitching with her last week, so I should still be fine because I think I was like, I can't remember how many stitches ahead I was, but I was ahead. And so I remember last week I was like, oh, I could end up stitching more on her this month, and I don't think I'm gonna get more done on her this month than I had planned on, but at least it means I won't be behind. So that was Autumn Harmony. I decided to work on the board game stitch along on Sunday night from Taylor and Cromwell because my projects for the weekend, there was Little Gamer, there was the board game stitch along, and then there was Cozy Winter Book Nook. And the board game stitch along was the only chart that I hadn't worked on yet this month, so I made that one like a priority over the other ones because the other 2 charts had been worked on this month at least once. So I will insert what it was like before. And this chart, I'm gonna say this is not a chart that you can like speed through. It is very time consuming because in the stitching, there was only 100 stitches left in the area that I needed to do, but a lot of those stitches had like a lot of the things were like pulling out a color, doing like 5 stitches, having to get out another color, doing like 5 stitches, and so that it was a lot of changing colors within those 100 stitches. And then it has back stitching, a ton of back stitching, and the back stitching had a lot of color changes too. So like, I'll show now. So I was doing the back stitching, and like this G here has like 5 colors in the back stitching. It had like it had black, dark brown, a dark gray, and then another like dark gray or something. So there was a ton of colors that were just in this G here. And then there's also supposed to be French knots on these dice here. So I still have things that I need to do on it. And I still have one dice that I haven't even done any back stitching on. But yeah, so it's not something that you can like speed through because there is so much details that are packed into like a small area. So it's nice because they were able to keep it small, but you have so much detailed things that it makes it take a while. And so I was working on filling in this square here, and then I decided I would work on some of the black because I really need to get more of the outlines done so that I can start other games, hopefully maybe next month, because I still have stitches I need to do on it this month. I think I only did like 400 stitches on it, and my goal is to do 1,000 stitches on it. So I still need to do another 600 stitches, but I think that I need to do those stitches in the black this month, and then next month I would possibly be able to start on another game. And I think that when I do the next game, I might pick Pandemic, because the Pandemic one, I was looking at the different blocks that are out so far, and that one looks like it might be the easiest because a lot of it is just shades of blue, so I think there's less color changes than on some of the other ones. And like the Gloomhaven one and Calico look very time consuming, and so they're obviously worth it. I've seen people have stitched it. There is a Facebook group for the Taylor and Cromwell stitch-alongs, for all their stitch-alongs. And so I've seen people who are caught up and they look amazing, but it's just, they're very detailed. So it's not something that you can like really rush through in any way. So I'm stitching this on the called for fabric. It's called Board Games from Witch's Garden Crafts. I am stitching this. It's a 16 count, 2/1 full cross. And yeah, like I said, it's just very detailed. And I'm going to say though that I was saying that I might stitch Pandemic, the tile first, but I also realized that I think Monday will be another release. So I have to see what comes out Monday before I really make my final decision on which one I stitch first. And then yesterday I decided to work on Cozy Winter Book Nook, which is artwork by Rose Kahn, charted by Paine Free Crafts, because I just really love this artwork. I think everyone at this point knows that I am obsessed with this chart. Paine Free Crafts charts do go into Pattern Keeper because I think that someone had asked about that. They go into Pattern Keeper and you don't have to do anything special because like there was a chart that I bought recently, I think it was the Medusa Dollmaker ones, where I had to put in all the colors. So it went in, but none of the colors were assigned to the symbols. I had to do all that myself, but Paine Free Craft charts are compatible with Pattern Keeper. So, and this is being stitched on 25 count, 2/1 tent stitch. And where was I working? I think I was filling in parked threads because I had a lot of parked threads up in this fabric area. And then I also decided that I wanted to keep trying to get to the painting over the fireplace. And so that was what I did here. I stitched this big section of 154 because this 154, it actually goes quite a ways out this way. And then I noticed that there was the green color underneath it, and the green is, there's like tiles that go around the painting. So I'm getting closer to the painting. I just need to follow this green, and I think that will take me to where the painting is. So I was pretty excited about that because last time I was all like, I'm not going to be able to make it to the painting, but I can. I was just being a baby. So I'm excited of where I got done on this, but I still need to do more stitches on it this month. My goal was to do 1,500. So far, I think I have done like 1,100, so I still need to do another 400 plus probably more, because if I pull it out, I'm not just going to stop at 400. So there was that, and then that was all my cross stitch. I did not work on Little Gamer at all because, you know, I fell and then I could not fit it in, which is fine. And so that means that today I will spin the wheel to see what I end up picking. And why is the sound on? We have the Board Game Stitch Along again, which I had mentioned that if I worked on it again, I would be working on just the black. I might do more of the back stitching in this tile here just so that it's fully done. And I don't know if I mentioned, there are supposed to be French knots. I'm not going to do French knots. I'm going to do beads because I don't like French knots. I did a whole bunch of French knots when I did Thomas Kinkade. I did one of the Thomas Kinkade kits, the Disney Dreams. I had Pinocchio. And I did a whole bunch of the French knots in that kit, and then I was just like, yeah, I never want to do a French knot again in my life. And I will say, the Thomas Kincaid Disney Dream kits, I don't like them. I stitched the one, and it was before they were like super rare and popular, because I bought mine before they were like out of stock everywhere, before they retired them. I had bought mine, I think it was like in 2012, and it was before I knew really anything else about stitching. I just went into Joann's, bought a kit because I didn't know about online shops or anything like that. And yeah, I did not like the fabric that it came with. There are a ton of like fractional stitches, and it's a 16 or 18 count, so it was difficult to do all the fractional stitches on the fabric. I also did not stitch the full kit, so I cropped mine down quite a bit. I will just go grab it, so hold on. Here it is. It's probably dusty because it's been hanging on the wall. This is one thing that I actually framed. So I cropped it. This was supposed to be way bigger. So this was basically like 1/4 of it, and there was supposed to be another section like here and then to the bottom. So I cropped the heck out of it. I still ran out of floss on this kit. And I didn't even do the whole thing. So yeah, I ran out of floss. I actually cropped off. I did all the French knots on a section that was going this way, and I cropped that off. So I ended up cutting off all the French knots that I did. Oh, I don't know if I have a picture of the section before I had cut it off. If I do, I'll try and insert it. But yeah, I had done this other page down this way, and I ended up cutting it off because I was like, I'm done with this kit. It was not my favorite. I also don't love when... This is a complaint with not just the Thomas Kincaid kits, but like even like Mirabilia's, is I hate when kits come on a big piece of paper, like the giant piece of paper. How are you supposed to work off a giant piece of paper? And so I didn't make working copies back then, and so I was actually stitching from the real copy. The lines were wearing off where like the sheet comes folded, and so like the ink was wearing off where that happened, so I had to like tape the center to keep the lines from wearing off, and it wasn't my favorite. That was like a side rant. I don't even remember how we got to that. Anyways, so while I was injured, what did I do? I could not knit, I could not cross stitch, so I ended up shopping. I did not buy a lot. I actually just made carts everywhere. So like Nini Thomas came out with new charts. If you go on her website, there's a section that says cross stitch like 2024 or something. And she has new charts up. So I was looking through all the new charts there, and I made a little wish list for myself. Okay, not a wish list. I just filled up a shopping cart, and then I was like, that would be a lot of money for all these charts that I want. And then I couldn't narrow it down, so I didn't buy anything yet. They're also having a sale right now. I think everything is 25% off, so that's something. So if I want to buy something, I should buy it soon. I did purchase on Paine Free Crafts Dragon Race Into the Night. I had been talking about it in my last video, and then I had a comment from, I think Erin Makes, left a comment saying that I should get it for research purposes because they had heard that it is better than the HAED one, which I own the HAED version, so then I can compare them. So I was like, all right, that pushed me over the edge. So I purchased that chart, and then I think someone else had commented too that the Paine Free Crafts version was better. So I ended up buying it, and then I'll just throw up some images of the comparisons. I also have a post-it note where I wrote down the information about them. So my HAED version was 238 colors, and it was 750 by 556 stitches. The Paine Free Crafts version is 120 colors, so it uses, half the colors, and it is 850 by 631, so each side is almost 100 stitches bigger than the HAED one. So Paine Free Craft is bigger but uses less colors, and then the HAED version is smaller but uses a ton of colors. And there is a huge difference in the mock-ups in Pattern Keeper. I will say that they are both in Pattern Keeper. I took both the screenshots for the things from my laptop, so there's not like a screen difference or anything like that between devices. And there's a big difference. So the HAED version is a lot darker overall, and it also is not as crisp as the Paine Free Crafts version. The Paine Free Crafts version is able to use less colors, but it is somehow brighter and has more color details throughout the piece, which I thought was interesting because obviously you would assume that with more colors that you could have a brighter piece, but that's not the way it is. And then I also put a couple different comparison images up of areas where you can really tell the difference. So the biggest areas that you can tell the difference is there is a tree in the upper left section. And on the HAED version, the tree trunk gets really dark and you start to lose details. There is also a dragon that's kind of like a white rainbowy dragon that's less bright. And so then you go to the Paine Free Crafts version and the tree trunk has, you know, it's still like it's bright. You have all the details of the tree itself. The dragon next to it is a lot more colorful in the rainbowiness of it. And then another area is there's a boat that's in the water. And then on the HAED version, it's got less details. It's less bright. Because like I said, that's the biggest difference to me is like the Paine Free Crafts version keeps this brightness to it. And it also has more details. So that's the biggest differences. So the boat itself is just less detailed and darker. And then the area to me that was the biggest difference is on the bottom right corner. There is a giant purple dragon and it's sitting in a grassy area and there's like flowers and stuff along the bottom. On the HAED version, once you start to get lower on the dragon just gets super dark and it starts to blend into the grass. And then the grass itself is also really dark. You lose a lot of like the green of the grass and you also lose a lot of the details in the flowers, where the Paine Free Crafts version, you get to keep the purple dragon. The dragon stays a nice bright purple throughout and the flowers on the bottom are all still there. There's also people that are crossing this bridge, and on the HAED version, they're just kind of like a jumbly dark mess. And then on the Paine Free Crafts version, you keep more of the details because it did not get overly dark in that area. So those were like the biggest differences that stood out to me. And then there was also just other areas where, like I said, there's just a lot of details that are kept in the Paine Free Crafts version versus the HAED version. So I was happy that I spent the $15 to buy the other chart because I felt kind of like I almost didn't want to buy it because I was like, I already have spent money on one version, so it seems silly to spend money on a different version. But after seeing the differences, the chart is the cheapest part of cross stitch. You know, the charts itself, $15 is not that big of an expense when you consider the fact that fabric is going to be much more expensive, the floss is going to be much more expensive, and you are going to spend years stitching on it. So spending $15 at the beginning to get a better chart is worth it because then it's going to give you a better finished piece in the end. So I am happy with the decision to buy the other version. So if I ever stitch it, then I know that I have a version that's going to turn out well. So I think that is all that I have. Wait, that's not all I have. I am wearing the last thing. So I finished my Nordiska sweater, which I think was by Caitlin Hunter, but I have heavily changed this, so it's not even really the same sweater. I started stitching it as charted, so this top part is as charted, but then I decided to make mine short sleeve instead of 3/4 length because I wear short sleeve more often. And then I also did not do the color work on the bottom, so I will kind of get up to show. So here is my version. No color work, it's just like a brown top now with a nice little v-neck, and it's finished. I am happy with it. The yarn I used was from So Livy Dyes Yarn, who is retired from dyeing yarn, which is sad because then I have to find yarn somewhere else now. And so I finished this top, and then after I finished the top, I have been making a scrap blanket with my scrap yarn, and I already made the square in my blanket for that yarn. This is the mitered square blanket. I am following a pattern on YouTube that is from, I think, Anna Knitter. She has a video up on YouTube that I'll have linked in the description box, and she goes through the whole process of how you make these squares and make a nice blanket. And she goes through like just the different things that she learned, because she made one where she wasn't as happy with the results because her squares weren't all going the same direction. They were kind of all going different directions. And so she kind of goes through the things she learned and also gives like little tips on like picking up the stitches and stuff like that. So she has a great tutorial on how to do this. It was actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. So Now that I have finished making my sweater, I think I might try making a pair of socks because I had talked previously about making socks and a lot of people left comments about how I should try it because I was really intimidated by socks. Like, it sounds like a hard thing to do, but people left comments with recommendations on patterns and people to watch. So I think that is going to be what I dive into next for knitting, is trying to make a pair of socks. So I don't know when I'm going to start that though, because I think I might watch some videos and see, because there's different ways you can make socks. There's top down, there's toe up, and then there's different heels and things like that. So I might watch some videos to see which would be the best starting point before I actually jump in, but that will be coming eventually. Because I spent so long talking about the differences in the charts, I decided that I will put this video up today because it's already like 20 minutes, and so I know that if I wait till and do it at the end of the week, the video will be pretty long, and I prefer to keep the videos slightly shorter so they're not like an hour-long video. So I'll be back on Friday with my progress on the board game stitch along and whatever else I end up doing this week, and I will see you all in my video on Friday. Bye!